What's up? Welcome back to my channel. Are you looking for some new books to read this month? I thought you might be. What? Book of the month? Do not tell me that this is a book subscription box. And by using the code Emmy, you can get your first box for $9.99. Each and every month, you can pick from a variety of great books that are handpicked themselves by Book of the Month staff that they think you will love. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not kidding you. Thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. If you would like to help yourself narrow down your TBR for the month and just pick from a variety of like romance, mystery, thriller, historical fiction, all of that good stuff, and pick from 5 every single month which book you would like shipped to you, this is the book subscription box for you. You can also add in some add-ons each and every month if you want to, so let me run you down the picks for January from Book of the Month. So we have their romance, which is Love and Other Disasters. Look at this gorgeous cover. I think this is the one I'm most excited about because this is their add-on, and that is The Maid by Nita Prose. First of all, the cover too, but this one is set in a hotel, and we do follow a maid, and you guys know how I feel about hotels, and I believe there's a murder mystery involved, and it just sounds absolutely wonderful. So highly excited about this one. We have The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davies. We have Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. We have Fiona and Jane by Jean Chen Ho. And finally, we have Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This one is also very intriguing because it says with its island gothic sensibility, sexy suspense, and spine-tingling reimagining of an Agatha Christie classic. That's what this is about. I really don't know which Agatha Christie book is set on an island. If you guys want to get yourself a box for January or any other month, or just find some new books to read, get some recommendations, have them lovingly sent to you, then I'll leave the link in the description box. And thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this December wrap-up. Okay, hit it, Fergie. This month I read 8 books in December, but it was actually one of my favorite reading months of the year. I feel like December always is because it's very cozy for me. I love the winter book picks. Like, those are some of my favorite books to read. So I'm just gonna go through these all and pretty much just have a gush fest with you guys, honestly. This first book, I don't even know how to talk about this anymore. It's Dune. Guys, I ended up loving this. Let's just get it out of the way. I think lots of people have been asking me. I absolutely love this. I absolutely destroyed the pristine spine because this one I found in a book box, one of my little library book boxes, a brand new copy of Dune, and I finally picked up the audiobook in November, and it took me a really long time to get through. I would highly recommend the audiobook. It's a great full cast production. There's music, there's sound effects, everyone does such a great performance, and it was like a really good experience. I'm still waiting to get my hands on the movie, but this was just so phenomenal. I will 100% be continuing the series. If you've heard about this, if you've seen a lot of hype surrounding it, if you've been a little hesitant because first of all, it's very long, but second of all, you've heard maybe there's like a lot of terminology, it's a little bit hard to get into, it's not super accessible, I would say just go for it. Definitely in the beginning, I was feeling like, kind of, where are we? What are we doing? I did keep having to flip back and forth to the terminology, but I think because there is a terminology little thing created for you at the end, as well as appendices, I honestly think once you just let yourself get into it and stop worrying so much about what all the names mean immediately, just let yourself get into the story, like eventually you just come to be so immersed in this world that it's really not a problem anymore. So I would say if you start it and you're having some worries or difficulties or something, just keep going and it'll get so much better and you'll be a-okay. So how do I even describe this? Let's start with Dune, the planet itself, or its proper name, Arrakis. So Arrakis is a desert planet. Water is the most valuable resource. Frank Herbert does a fantastic job of having so many conversations in this book about so many different things and using Arrakis or Dune as the place to have them because he examines like philosophy, ecology, obviously the planet itself, anthropology, religion, politics. It is astounding and it feels so real. You feel so thirsty the whole time you're reading this book. Like, you just start to think like the people of Arrakis do about water. I don't know, I just literally felt like I was thinking so much about water in my day-to-day life, which was so cool. for the people of Arrakis, it is an honor and it is a great show of respect to spit at someone. It's not a show of, you know, the common disrespect that it would be for everyone else. You're actually like bestowing what little water you have inside you and using it on someone else, wasting it on someone else because you're showing them an immense amount of respect. So it's stuff like that that really characterizes the world and really, really makes you feel it. So we do have Dune, and on Dune we have the Fremen, who are people who live there. The Fremen have been ruled over for a very long time by the Harkonnens, who have not been very nice to them at all. They've been absolutely brutal. We also have the family Atreides, the Atreides line, made up of the Duke and his concubine Jessica, and then we have their son Paul. And we are principally following Paul throughout Dune because the Atreides family comes to Arrakis to preside over it, basically make a new home there. They leave their planet, Caladan, to go to Arrakis and live there. So many conspiracies are taking place. There's a lot of rivalry between the Harkonnens and the Atreides families, and so much is played out on Dune. I don't even want to say anything else, but there's so much like mysticism. Paul goes on this huge journey. I think Paul was actually my least favorite character in Dune, I would say. I think a lot of his parts I wasn't super interested in. I think I actually enjoyed most of all the parts with the Harkonnens and the Baron, who is the head of the Harkonnen line, and his two nephews, because I just found their perspective so interesting and it was really, really fun to follow them actually. It's like made me remember kind of Game of Thrones and why I loved it so much and how rich that world was, how rich this world is, and like it's just getting started. It was a fantastic journey, like so impressive and so immersive, and I cannot wait to watch the movie. Cannot wait. So yeah, I love this. I'm so happy I picked this up. Definitely a standout sci-fi and so impressive and so well done. So that is Dune. Absolutely loved it. These next two I'm going to talk about together because we have A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, which I read for the Dickens versus Tolstoy book club, and then we also have Mr. Dickens and His Carol by Samantha Silva, which is about Charles Dickens writing A Christmas Carol. This was also an optional pick for the book club, and I did listen to the audiobook while actually reading A Christmas Carol, so that was a cool experience. A Christmas Carol I loved absolutely. I feel like I loved it and appreciated it so much more this year when I read it. This is my first time rereading it. It made me feel so nostalgic, and it really made me a lot more sad, I think, than I had previously been reading A Christmas Carol. It just really hit me. I think a lot of stuff in my personal life, Charles Dickens just like slapped me in the face with it, and what Scrooge is going through in here, and it was really hard to read, but very emotional journey. I loved it. Of course, it was so nice to read like Charles Dickens writing so gorgeously, so beautifully. This thing, on the other hand, really did not like it so much. I gave this a generous 3 stars, but at the beginning I was really enjoying it because we see Dickens struggling to write. He's putting out Martin Chuzzlewit at the moment that this book opens, and no one is liking it. It's not a success. Everyone is pretty much like, Dickens is done, right? He had his little thing, he's done writing. His publishers aren't enjoying it, Americans aren't enjoying it, and he's feeling so down in the dumps. He's in a lot of debt. His family keeps spending very frivolously because for them Christmas is a huge tradition. They always put on this huge party, they get so many gifts, and each year they kind of vow to make it more extravagant than the last. His publishers come to him and tell him that he basically has to write a Christmas story because that's what the public wants. Dickens tries and tries, but he cannot write it at all. And so in the beginning I thought it was pretty true to history, and I was really loving learning about like his family. At the start of this book he just has another child that's born, but then as you go further and further into the book you realize that this book slides into definitely a lot of fantasy. There's a lot, so many liberties taken, and I'm someone who I don't like that, right? Like I don't like that at all, especially when myself I don't have like 100% understanding of the time period or Dickens' life at this moment in his life. I just don't like that, which is a personal choice. But as well, the way that Dickens acted in this book is so strange, because the main thing in this book is that on one of his late night walks for inspiration, like he walks through London, he meets this woman named Eleanor, and they like hit it off, and he kind of falls in love with her. At this point his family has deserted him. They've left to Scotland to stay with his wife's family because he's just been uber nasty to them. But then he meets Eleanor, and it's just like so weird. The way that Dickens behaves in this book is so kind of just gross for like a married man, and especially because none of this actually happened in real life. Eleanor is a completely fake woman. I think it was just a really weird angle to take this story in. There's also a huge twist at the end of this that was just like very disappointing, I think. The only thing I'll say about it is that it's about him writing A Christmas Carol, but it's also a lot about A Christmas Carol itself. And so at the end of the day, I just really did not love this. I didn't love her writing, I didn't love the angle it went, and I was just really disappointed. On top of that, it does spoil a few of Charles Dickens' novels, so that was also a little cherry on top for me. But yeah, did not love this, so that is Mr. Dickens and his Carol. The first book I actually read in December, finished in December, is For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten. This one was an interesting one, actually. So I picked this up at the bookstore because, again, it gave me so many wintry vibes, and it did, and it was great. This is a super duper loose retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. And okay, so my overall rating, I would say, is almost 4 stars. It's like 3.7, 3.75, but I was enamored with the beginning, and I really liked the ending, actually. The whole middle slog of this book, not sure what happened there, honestly, but I'm willing to ignore it because this book had so many of the things that I love so much. So we're following 2 sisters in this kingdom, and their kingdom borders this really dark forest called the Wilderwood. So at its heart, it keeps trapped the 5 kings that used to rule over this kingdom. In the days of these 5 kings, there also used to be a lot of like shadow monsters, shadow creatures that would come out and terrorize the kingdom and the countryside, and so they all got locked inside the forest in the Shadowlands, but these kings were also taken inside. This forest is so magical, you can make bargains with it. It is very much alive, very sentient, very spooky, very scary. And so in Valleydon, which is basically like the little kingdom, right at the edge of the Wilderwood, there is a prophecy that when 2 sisters are born, the first sister will be for the throne, she'll rule over the kingdom, and the second daughter will be for the wolf, in that she will get sacrificed to the Wilderwood, get set in to appease the wolf, who looks over the woods and is said to hold the gods inside, and essentially her role is to try and appease the wolf and get the kings, or basically like they're kind of god level now, god tier kings, out, because everyone has been waiting for their return. There's a lot of like religious fanaticism in this book as well. And so the second sister is this woman named Radaris, and on, I think her 19th birthday, she gets sent into the woods. She quickly finds out that the wolf is just this man named Aemon. All the mythology, all the stories she's heard for years and years and years is quite different to the reality of the Wilderwood. I'm gonna say this book was way too long for what it was. I'm also gonna say Hannah Whitten's writing was extremely repetitive, especially just the way that she would describe a scene. There are these trees called the Sentinels, and they are the ones that essentially try to warn the wolf when there's a breach in the Shadowlands. And so they kind of pop up and they like decay and absolutely get infested with this rot. And there's so many scenes like this. The scenes are repetitive, and the language she uses, she just like takes about 20 sentences to describe this exact same thing, and they're quite repetitive sentences in themselves. It's like this really weird phenomenon where she's trying to describe a tree, and then you have like 2 or 3 or 4 sentences next to each other, which all are saying the same thing, all use almost the same words, but they're all like working the same way, and the level of them working is not even good. It was just like this really weird writing style, I think, in the description. So I would love if that could be kind of like worked on or edited for the next book, because it really made the reading experience very repetitive, very slow, and definitely made me want to put it down. It also, I think, affected the pacing of this book, which wasn't the greatest. We also switched back to the perspective of Neve, who is the first daughter, and she's destined to become queen. And I actually really liked her perspective, and I think the second book focuses more on Neve, so I'm really excited about that. I did not like the romance in here at all. I really didn't think there was any chemistry. It just felt very awkward. I didn't like it. I don't think it worked. I didn't feel it. However, I will say like the atmosphere and the idea and like the concept, along with like the religion, the woods, the gods, the king, a lot of blood and like gory nature stuff in here. I thought that was really cool. And so like the outside layer I really loved. It's just like kind of what it was filled up with, how it was executed, I don't think was the strongest in my opinion, but I think I would still continue on with the series, especially because I think there's lots of room for improvement, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So that is For the Wolf. Okay, this next one was a 5-star read for me, and that is the Enchanted Sonata Enchanted Sonata by Heather Dixon Walwork. I love this. I don't know why I waited so long to read it. This is my best books of the year video, so I'm gonna try really hard not to gush too much about it here, but I adored this. This is a retelling of the Nutcracker. Love this. This author has been so high on my radar to read more from her because she wrote one of my favorite young adult books ever, and I finally picked this up, and guys, so happy. It made me so happy. I think it's technically young adult. I do want to say, once again, it is on the younger side. Loved it. So we follow Clara, who lives in, you know, our world in, I believe, 1889 or something like that. She is a pianist. She is so gifted. She is set to give a concert on Christmas Day, but when she comes home, she sees a book under her tree that says Clara and the Nutcracker, and she doesn't know who it's from. In the book, there's a story about the crown prince of Imperia named Nikolai. It's kind of about him mourning for the death of his father, but also wondering how on earth he can, like, fill in the shoes. Is that how you say that expression? Take in the shoes? Fill in the shoes. Fill the shoes. Fill their shoes. Fill his father's shoes. He's gonna fill his father's shoes. However, the perfect opportunity arises because this villain, who's called the Musician, arrives, and he basically turns all of the children of Imperia, as well as the soldiers, into toys. This is really bad because, first of all, they're toys, but second of all, there is of course the army of rats on the outskirts of Imperia, like huge rats that come and eat you. It was actually extremely gory. Like, you would switch from these like childlike reveries of like gorgeous musical description and candies and a little bit of sweet romance, and it was just all feeling very wholesome, very Christmassy. This book to me felt like Christmas. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, it just did. Like, I could smell the peppermint and like the icing. I could just see it all so clearly. I think Heather Dixon is so talented at just like putting you there, or making it doesn't feel like you go there so much as the story just like wafts over you. Like, that is such a perfect, I think, description, because it's like this mist that just like hits you, and all of a sudden you're just there eating candy, having hot chocolate. It was gorgeous. But like I was saying, then all of a sudden there's like these really gruesome, gory descriptions of like rats eating people, or rats being like blown to bits. So that was really funny. But Clara eventually does get transported to Imperia because she is so gifted with music, and since the spell wrought on the children was created by a flute. Our villain is a flute-playing Phantom of the Opera gorgeous man. She is sent on a journey with the prince to help save his kingdom. Yeah, 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. All right, and then I listened to my last romance of the year, technically, and that was The Love Hypothesis by Ellie Hazelwood. I was really excited for this book for a number of reasons. First of all, there's been so much hype around it. Second of all, it's a romance, and I've been reading so much more romance this year, and I was really excited to try and read one more great one before the year ended. Third of all, it is a published Reylo fan fiction. I love Star Wars, and before reading this book, I actually did finally watch the last Star Wars movie because I hadn't seen it yet, The Rise of Skywalker. Oh God, I wish I hadn't seen it. Listen, I'm not gonna go on a rant about it. Just know that I could for hours. Worst movie I've seen all year. Worst movie of 2021 for sure. I mean, to be fair, I watched like 9 movies last year, but wow. Just like, wow. I'm just actually astounded that that got released. Anyway, so I was kind of hoping this book would, you know, just turn around, give me a little bit of, you know, some Star Wars love back in my life. So I think I filmed a reading vlog where I was about 80 pages in, and I was so giddy. I was getting like the swooning? I swooned. Doesn't even sound like a real word. I was just like in such a cutesy mood. I was loving it. So in this one, we're following Olive, who is 26, and she is doing her PhD in biology on pancreatic cancer. And she's trying to convince her best friend On that she can date her ex-boyfriend, Jeremy, because Olive never even really liked Jeremy. They didn't hit it off, and Jeremy and On are like perfect for each other. But On is like too good of a friend, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna date your ex, because she thinks she's like broken up about it. And so Olive decides that she's gonna like fake date someone to make her best friend believe that she can date her ex. It's like very convoluted. And so she kisses the first person she sees, who happens to be this professor named Adam Carlson, Kylo Ren. Adam Carlson, this young professor, just so happens to be the most hated professor in the grad school. He's super tough, super stern, super mean. However, for some reason, he's super nice to Olive and he agrees to be her fake date boyfriend. Because it's also going to help him for a number of reasons. Like I said at the beginning, I was really liking it. I thought the scenes were really cute. I was really liking the tension. I just thought it was really, really cute, really sweet. It was making me very happy. And then what even happened? It just started getting so bad. So many people's, I think, main thing with this was saying it was super cringy. I think I can agree, but being someone who doesn't really cringe very easy at media at all, at any kind of like fictitious creation, I just don't really cringe very easily. That wasn't the main thing, and so I think those like cringe moments for me just translated into moments of like, I just don't really like this. This kind of feels like you're wasting my time. It feels a little bit annoying. There's a lot of really stupid things that happen, but I think what made me dislike this most of all is that I've come to discover in romance books that I really don't want any of that extra life in it. I don't want life issues discussed. I don't want like to have to get to know all of the protagonists' like best friends and their family life and family drama and friend drama. Like, I just don't want it. I just want the two of them. I want their romance, and I don't want any outside contemporary nonsense because I just don't care. This book unfortunately also had a lot of that because it was discussing a lot of important things about women in STEM, science, student life, the academic institution, academic education, and just academia in general, which are great things to have, but I really don't want them in my romance book where I'm just trying to swoon over Kylo Ren. Okay? Does that make sense? The other reason why I really started to dislike this book, I loved Adam. I thought he was a great character, very cool. And it's also a trend that I think I can comment on more broadly now, having read a lot more romance this year, is that I'm finding that I mostly only like the male lead or the male protagonist in the romance books. And that is disappointing because sometimes it's a tactic that I'm not sure whether it's actually being used or not, or I feel like the women in all these romances are either much less interesting, much less fleshed out. They have this kind of just like scatterbrained weird quality of like inner monologue that to me does not make sense. I'm like, I literally no one that I know thinks like this or like goes through their mind like this, and I think it's a quality of trying to be more relatable but also trying to be not so fleshed out or not so specialized and more of a more general person so that the audience reading it can relate to the protagonist more if they're quite average, if that makes sense, so that a broader range of people can relate to them. Or if it's the case that they're kind of underdeveloped, I feel like it's so that you can kind of just easily replace yourself in their shoes and just kind of cancel out the female lead in the story and put yourself in instead. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's something I want to think about more. These thoughts are kind of, I'm just blabbing out loud now. I don't know if any of this is really making sense, but that's what I've really been finding because I really did not like Olive. I thought she was ridiculous. I thought she made so many stupid, very obvious mistakes. It's kind of frustrating because to me, I'm like, you are doing your PhD on like cancer screening. You are so impressive, but then these like basic things, and also her like inner monologue was just so, I think that's what was really cringy and a letdown, and so I had to give this 3 stars. On top of that, at the end, like the romance did just drift away for me from the romance and towards bigger contemporary issues, which like I said is just a personal thing, but yeah, was definitely disappointed in this, so I gave it 3 stars. Very sad. Okay, second last, I don't know if this is technically categorized as a romance, but I read Christmas at the Island Hotel by Jenny Colgan. I really thought I was also liking this, and then I didn't. I think I gave this a 2.5 stars. This was not my first time trying to read Jenny Colgan. I've DNF'd all of her previous works, but this one just sounded so charming because hotel, once again, the hotel thing. I will not ever stop about this hotel thing. And it reminded me a little bit of like Castle and Clouds, which I am gonna try really hard not to talk about too much, but this one is set on the Scottish island of Muir, which doesn't actually exist, but we follow this hotel and this brother and sister who are trying to like open it, you know, hire chefs, get it ready for Christmas, and just have people come and stay at the hotel. You kind of follow, it feels like 7 different Christmas Hallmark movies in here because everyone is going through their own drama, whether that's romance or some personal struggle or really tragic stories, and so you follow a lot of the island inhabitants and what's going on in their lives as Christmas approaches. I really wanted to get into this because I heard there was a love story between Isla, who is one of the girls who works in the kitchen, and Constantine, who is an exiled Norwegian prince who comes to stay at the hotel and work because his father is quite upset with him being such a spendthrift. I sound like Charles Dickens. And so they start to get to know each other and stuff. Overall, it just wasn't for me. I just can't do it. I can't do the very dramatic soap opera-y Hallmark movie books. So I gave it 2.5 stars. I don't think I'll read any more Jenny Colgan, but I do know this would work for a lot of people, but just not for me. And then finally, yes, I reread A Castle in the Clouds, 5 stars. This is also in my best books of the year video. If you have not read this, oh, go ahead and do yourself a favor. Once again, hotel, Swiss Alps, magic, Ghibli film-esque, romance, murder, intrigue, hotel kidnappings, cats, ghosts, lots of snow, devil children, politics, guns, food. Thank you. Okay, I think that's where I'm gonna leave it. Honestly, that's all I'm gonna say. I hope that sold you on it because this is one of my favorite books of all time. Just pure happiness whenever I even think about this book. So yeah, that is Castle in the Clouds. So that is everything I read in December. I honestly feel like I'm really happy with my reading this month. Like, it was just so fun. So yes, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your favorite book of December was, or if you have like any more winter recommendations for me. I feel like I'm always begging everyone for winter books. Also, thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. The link is in the description box. I'll see you guys very soon in my next video, whenever that'll be. I hope you're doing really, really well.